this is like a controversial statement to throw out there, but I think Warcraft 3 might be the greatest Blizzard game ever made.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing? Great to
I'm
see you.
yeah, you too. I'm doing super good. I'm excited. I was talking about it yesterday. I was like, man, if we can get Jeff to come on stream and talk about the game and just everything in general. For me, like I have such a big like OG classic WoW community. So like everybody's like super excited. Obviously because of that, but then also on top of that, like I played Legend of California a couple times and people have been loving it. People think it's great.
Nice. No, that's awesome. It's funny for me because someone once called me the caveman that thawed it out of ice because my whole WoW experience is like vanilla WoW, EBC, and Lich King,
Yeah.
and that's my whole knowledge of the game. That's when I played it the most. That's when I worked on it. So it's awesome when there's classic peeps, and awesome that you're playing the new game too. It's fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's funny. So that's basically my WoW experience. I actually quit whenever Wrath came out. I quit and then came back. For me, Wrath was kind of like the end of me like, I mean, not even, it really was Burning Crusade was the end of me like trying to play seriously. But then in Wrath, I told you before, I play Ret Paladin. So they changed Ret, or you guys.
Yeah. They, wasn't me.
You guys, Kevin actually.
Kevin Jordan and Tom. Yeah.
So whenever Ret changed, I just didn't like the new Ret, which is funny because everybody complained about Ret Paladins forever. And then when they changed, I was like, I don't like this version. So that's kind of where I was at.
I streamed for the first time 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how you guys do it. Like, it's just the amount of stuff you got to think about at once, and then like I'm so impressed, and just the energy to keep up with chat and playing games and the tech, and you're putting streams out to Twitch and YouTube. It's just impressive. I have no clue what I'm doing when it comes to any of it. So props to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. No, streaming is definitely like people have no idea what all goes into it until they actually do it. And even then, like it's a very different sort of different stages of streaming. You have like different experiences, right? So like whenever you're first starting streaming, like if you don't really have anybody watching, then it's obviously super different than when there's a bunch of people watching and there's like everything in between. I mean, everything from like the PC working to the internet working to your audio is always an issue. So there's like 100 things. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, everybody was complaining about me and Tim's like mics. Like, oh, you guys sound like you're talking through a tin can, and I'm like, I don't know, just like buy a headset off of Amazon, and I didn't really think about. I didn't plan to be talking to all these people. But,
Right.
That's how it rolls.
Well, you know what's funny too is like over time the expectation has gone up more and more. You get used to all the big streamers having like the really nice mic and the really nice camera and this and that. So all of a sudden the standard goes up, and then that's kind of what you expect. But then if you're a new streamer and you're just starting out, then you might not have. I mean, you're just not there yet, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's like
we were laughing because we were working on Overwatch, and we had this great tech artist, a guy named Dylan. He started streaming. Like, he's like, oh, I'm going to stream Overwatch and whatever. We'd go on, and we'd all, like, the whole team would log on just to try to get him viewers. And, Dylan was streaming, and he could never get, like, any audience going. And then one day he switched over, I think, to just chatting. And he's like, the most views I ever got on my stream is when I ordered 2 large pizzas and I ate them all at once. But then the chat got super weird, and they just wanted me to take my shirt off. And he's like, I don't know what to do at this point. So I thought I'm like, that kind of sums up streaming and the internet all at once. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, no, people are just always gonna want the most ridiculous thing, or like they'll just say something just because it's funny. Like just because it's like a ridiculous thing to say, they'll just say something, even if they don't mean it at all. I watched the whole Lex Friedman interview that you did, and it's so interesting, kind of hearing and seeing the perspective of somebody else. As a game dev, you guys are under a lot of the same sort of pressures and scrutiny, and I mean, you guys are very much in the public eye in the same way that a streamer is. Like, it's the same but different. I kind of relate it to it's kind of like a Yelp review. where sometimes people really appreciate the game, really like the game, but then they're not going to say anything about it. They're not going to leave a positive review. But then it's like Yelp, like you just see a bunch of like negative reviews about whatever. It's because that's where people also go to complain. Like you're definitely going to, it's a 100% chance that somebody's going to complain about something, but like a 20% chance that they're going to say something positive. And I feel like for game devs, like you guys get a lot of that with just anything online. And it's just people complaining about the game, people doing this, but then there's hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people that might be playing a game and really enjoying it, but you don't hear from them.
It's absolutely true, and something that sort of anybody, it's not unique to game developers, but game developers face a unique version of it in that gaming audiences are very passionate, very vocal, they're very internet savvy. It's just creating the filter for understanding how to process feedback and how to process comments. And you know, even when you can be intellectual about it and go, you know, there's actionable items and stuff that you just have to kind of ignore, like just as a human being, you get hurt. You know, you have those moments where you hang on to the one comment, and it's sort of a skill to just learn how to process and know what to action on and what to just frankly ignore. You know, I'm
Yeah.
sure you have it, like the you could have all praise in your chat, all excitement, all good vibes, and that one person can kind of ruin you for 2 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
And you have to act like it doesn't, but it does, you know. It gets to you.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that like so I always joke that I'm a paladin in game, paladin in real life. What's happened to me is like I kind of get like reckoning stacks. And so like, you know, and I just kind of don't say anything. And then all of a sudden it's like, there'll just be one person that makes like a random, like innocuous comment. And then I'm just like, I will lay waste to your entire like family lineage. Just the one guy gets like Kazakh one shot. Basically.
Yeah. That used to be like, I would say 15 years ago, 10 years ago, Jeff would just like track down their account and ban them from every, you know, like you're never going to log into BattleNet again. And, you know, if I could track down your family members, they're not logging in either. And like new Jeff just tries to roll with it and choke it down more.
Yeah.
But then I just lose any hair that I don't lose just turns grayer and grayer.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. Yeah, no, it's yeah, man, I couldn't imagine. I mean, you know what's funny is like kind of talking about like WoW and BattleNet and all this stuff is like, so I've been around a long time. I'm an original like 2004 player. So like I've seen like all the like the old forums, a lot of the old memes, all that kind of stuff. You know, Shadow Priest, Melt Faces, and PvP. I was around for like all that, right? It's funny playing again now. I see things that like people talked about years ago. It's like, oh, like they should give paladins dual wield. Like I remember that whole conversation. I was like, what is going on? Like, why are we even talking about this? That doesn't make sense. But like the same sort of conversations, it's like history repeats itself, and people will still talk about a lot of the same things from like 20 years ago. And it's like, guys, this like we've been through this. Why are we even talking about this?
Yeah.
Like we know where this discussion leads. That's kind of what's happening a lot right now with like, I mean, have you followed along at all with like WoW Classic, like news or anything like that, or like this whole like Classic Plus thing?
No, so here was my experience. I played, obviously worked and played on WoW, like vanilla TBC, Wrath of the Lich King. Then I moved off the team, and I was still like I was very good friends with the WoW team. I would consult with them, like especially on Cataclysm, but I wasn't involved in working on those things. And then I very casually played all the WoW expansions. But by casual, I mean like Cataclysm would come out and we'd play it for maybe a month or two and then cycle out and, you know, kind of rinse repeat with Pandaria, Legion, etc. I think the last like actual full WoW retail expansion I played was Battle for Azeroth. And then right around that time, Classic came out. And I've always said this thing where I believe video games don't age well. Like novels and music and movies, they age phenomenally and they become classics. And I'm like, video games, you try to go back to an old video game and it's just junk. And then weirdly, WoW Classic was like magical when we played. I think it was 2019 or whatever. We had a group. We all rolled together. Of all things, we got up to Upper Blackrock Spire, and we only had, I think it was either 6 or 7 level 60s, and we're doing Upper Blackrock Spire, and my guild broke up over loot drama. Like the hunter and the rogue got in a fight over the pauldrons off
The
the
true strike
leather
shoulders.
pauldrons. Yeah, which was like such a meme that the hunter looted it, and we're like, really? Like, because you remember, like the hunters
Yeah,
looting everything, like everything was hunter loot. We just loved, like, classic was so awesome, but like it was literal loot drama. Broke up our group, and then we just got busy. Like it was, like life
Yeah.
went on and moved on. And I've heard about like classic. The thing that interested me more than classic plus was classic hardcore.
Really?
Like
Okay.
I just thought that was brilliant. And
Mhm.
like I watched the YouTube videos, like especially the compilations of just the faces of the people who are losing their characters.
Yeah. There's a
And
big like superiority thing I think that goes on there because people love watching those and they're like, oh man, these guys are so dumb.
yeah, yeah, totally. I watched all that, and then one of my favorite YouTubers is this guy named Aqua FPS,
Okay.
and he's just hilarious. Like he used to stream and make Rust videos, but he got really involved. Like he was one of those dudes with WoW Hardcore Classic,
Uh-huh.
where he would, those guys that just like have a group and they're all like leveling to like 7 and 8 in Duratar, and then
Uh-huh.
they're doing the I forget what the duel to the death is called.
And then
The
Makara, yeah.
Metzen word. Yeah, yeah. So they do that, and then they get their characters killed, and then they're just like in this endless chain of leveling up to 10 so they can duel
Yeah.
in like Crossroads or Duratar. And I could watch those videos all day long. Like they're just amazing.
Yeah. There's something so comfortable about watching like vanilla WoW leveling. Because
Yeah.
I was talking about this last night, kind of thinking about like Burning Crusade leveling versus vanilla leveling. And I do not like leveling. I've never been like one of those guys. I always would have like one character, max level, and I guild lead, raid lead, PvP. That's just what I do. So leveling for me is like a real it's a huge chore. But at the same time, there's like a degree of like comfort. It's just cozy. Like vanilla
Yeah.
leveling, even versus Burning Crusade. And I love the Burning Crusade zones. And Burning Crusade is my favorite period of time in WoW, but just something about vanilla leveling. I can't. It's so hard to describe it.
I love that feeling. You walk up to Orgrimmar and everybody's just hanging out front. Like you've got the dueling crowd,
Yeah.
you've got the auction house crowd, or you go up to Ironforge, like same thing. They're hanging out there. Or like you go into one of those like tiny shops that nobody ever goes in and WoW, with like the vendor list, which a bunch of junk. And there's like two people like RPing in there. Just you're like, what are you guys doing? Like, how long have you been here? I just love online worlds.
Yeah.
Just hanging out with strangers, and like, I don't know, it's just kind of magical.
But I'm curious, what server did you play on back in the day?
I played on a bunch of different servers. I'm trying to think. I think because we moved around. So on Horde, we were on Black Dragonflight, which we had switched. We originally rolled in Horde. I actually forget the server, but it was PvE. And then we quickly decided we wanted to be on PvP instead. So we rolled on Black Dragonflight. And then we had a friend who was playing Alliance. And if I don't know if you remember this, but the Penny Arcade guys had this whole rivalry, and I think it was Penny Arcade versus PvP Online, and a new server was coming up, and they were going to be Horde and Alliance on that server, and that was Dark Iron, and we ended up going Alliance on Dark Iron, not because we were like trying to fanboy out on the Penny Arcade guys, who I did love, and I loved their comic, but it was more that we had this one friend who rolled there, and we just randomly ended up Alliance on Dark Iron. So I played there for a long time too.
Okay. Yeah. So whenever I first started playing, I first played on Illidan. Actually, it's so funny because I was watching the podcast with Lex Friedman, and you're talking about this like 3 a.m. call you had with one of the GMs at the time. I don't remember who you said it was, but you said it was like 3 a.m. call, and there was some kind of exploit with like the Bijou turn-ins that people had figured out, and he just spawned an Infernal. So I see the video of this. Somebody's like, hey, somebody has a video of this thing. It's like it's a literal 20-year-old YouTube video with like 120,000 views. And somebody links it to me, and I click on the video and I'm watching it. About halfway through, I look up, you know, through all the pixels, I look up and I read the name of the guy and I'm like, wait a second, this guy's name is Super Pally. And I'm like, wait, I start looking at the guilds and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the server that I played on. And so it was so funny for me. I knew who these guys were. And the guy who recorded the video of the specific event you were talking about was somebody who crafted, I used to duel him outside of Ironforge all the time. And he crafted my gnome net for me. I don't remember why I had him craft it, because I mean, I was an engineer, I could craft it myself. I don't know if he crafted an extra one or whatever and just gave it to me, but it was like super funny hearing that. And I like the realization for me of like, oh my gosh, it kind of goes back to what you were saying about the online worlds and how it's just like you have this whole sort of like ecosystem and this timeline of something happening and just where everybody is in the world and how people are like interlocked. Like you have no idea. It's super, super cool. But yeah, that's why I asked, because I was like, yeah, I played on that server. So it's just like really funny for me. And then I transferred to Kel'Thuzad eventually. But
oh, nice. Yeah, it's just a small world, and it's shocking the amount of people you know, when especially a game like WoW, like the amount of people that have played WoW, and there's got to be a moment like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever, where you'd be shocked who you've crossed paths with in World of Warcraft and don't even know.
Yeah.
No, just living in that online space, escaping to that world where anything's possible and all sorts of goofy stuff happens all the time. It's just the best. I mean, I just love it. I'm so happy to be working on open world game again. I wish we could have made one for Overwatch. That would have been great too.
Yeah.
These worlds are what it's all about. It's that multiplayer thing.
So I was playing a little bit, actually, speaking of the new game, speaking of Legend of California. How did you go from, because you've kind of done everything now. I feel like it's like you obviously WoW was the big thing for a while, and then you guys worked on Titan for a little bit. Then Titan eventually became Overwatch. Essentially, it didn't really become Overwatch, but you know, whenever that stuff from Titan got transitioned into Overwatch, you did that. And how did you kind of get to Legend of California? Like, how did this type of game become a thing from going from WoW to Overwatch to this?
It's really interesting. Like, when I was working on WoW, I ultimately, you know, compared to some of the true heroes of the WoW team or Team 2, I didn't work on WoW for as long as many of them. I worked on it for 6.5 years, which I just loved. It was a magical time in my life. I was playing and working on WoW that whole time. And I remember when I hit that wall of like, I need to do something else as a developer creatively, which is kind of nuts when historically looking back to like leave World of Warcraft is, you know, how do you do that? But I remember thinking to myself, I'm never working on an MMO again. I need a break from working on MMOs. It's like, it's very intense, right? And then what's funny is you fast forward, and when I left the Overwatch team, I was like, I'm never working on a competitive PvP game ever again. Like, I need a break from that. And I think really, instead of the hyperbolic sort of statement, it's more like, I just kind of need a break from this type of game for a while. You know, obviously when I was working on Overwatch, I played a ton of Overwatch, but around that time period, Rust came out, and I sort of fell in love with the open world again. And I was thinking about it differently, because when we were transitioning from WoW to Titan, we thought the big idea was like, Titan was supposed to have everybody playing on the same world, which is, you know, technically very difficult to pull off. From a design standpoint, really hard to pull off. And the whole idea was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if like everybody in World of Warcraft was playing in one version of Azeroth? And that was one of the big ideas behind Titan. But what I started to really think about as I was playing Rust, which, you know, Rust server sizes were about 200, 250 concurrency cap. I was actually starting to think back to my early EverQuest days and the early, honestly, the early WoW days before they had server sharding and coalescing and all of those, you know, technologies they added. I actually started thinking, I think the multiplayer experience is stronger with smaller servers, not larger servers.
Okay.
And because in that world, you get to know, you recognize all the names, and you're like, oh, there's that Esfand guy. He's the guy who like helped me up when I was in trouble as a newbie. And, you know, he had the awesome armor. I saw him run through town. And I just played so much Rust, and I really wanted to get back to, and I missed working on WoW. I really miss like the online. You're not optimizing on a game like Overwatch. It's so much about like optimizing the competitive experience for complete fairness and whatever. So I just really they're making fun of how I pronounce your name. I'm so sorry. How do you pronounce your name?
No, well, it's Esfand, but like it's just
Esfand.
such a meme that it's just super funny.
I'm so
No,
because
you're
I'm
good.
thinking of the quest giver in Duskwood, Isfan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which it wasn't. That's a magic card, which
Mhm.
was the original name of the quest in Duskwood. It was the Legend of Isfan, but we're
Mhm.
like that belongs to Wizards of the Coast, and we're gonna get sued, and so it got renamed to Stalvan, and then so S
Mm.
Esfan. How do you say it again? Say it one more time.
Esfand?
Esfand. Okay,
Yeah.
it's basically you pronounce it exactly how it's spelled
Yeah,
and not
yeah.
like an idiot, which is what I'm doing. But yeah.
Wait, so Legend of Stalvan was originally gonna be Legend of Istvan.
Yeah, well that was like the inspiration was there was a magic card that
Uh-huh.
Metzen thought was he loved that magic card. He thought it was awesome.
Mhm.
And he and I were working me, Pat Nagel, Michael Chu, and Metzen were working on Duskwood, and we were like, "What are some of the storylines we want to do here?" And that one was inspired by a magic card, basically. So yeah, I don't know if anybody ever knew that, but that's how it came
Is it
about.
is it this Uncle Istvan?
Yeah, yes, that's exactly.
1994.
Yeah. That's not trying to date myself or Metzen at all, but that's our era, man. That's
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
That is cool. That you know
Yeah.
what's funny? That's like one of my favorite quest chains in all of WoW, and Duskwood's my favorite leveling zone in vanilla. It's so
It,
good.
it's really cool. That was the first time because originally Pat he took on Elwyn. He did Elwyn,
Mhm.
and I did Westfall. And I also worked with like this amazing level designer named Matt Sanders on Westfall. And like so that was very special to me. But then we decided like we were gonna divvy up Duskwood. And Michael Chu had just joined the team as the third quest designer. So we split it up three ways. So like Pat did Stitches
Really?
and
Okay.
yeah, like which to me Stitches was like the defining thing. I thought Stitches was just what it was all about. It was so cool.
Yeah.
I loved working on that. I named like most of the NPCs in Darkshire. There's these guys that are named after the band members in REM. There's Barry Buck and Mill Stipe, and if you look up the band member names of REM, it's Barry Buck, Mills, and Stipe, and so
Nice. So you know what's funny is I had like man, I don't remember how old I was. I must have been like 13 or 14 years old. There used to be this website called GameFAQs.com.
yeah, yep.
So I downloaded from GameFAQs the WoW Easter egg like text document, and I remember having this massive word pad of a bunch of these things. Like that's how I learned about like the chicken cluck quest
Yeah.
in Westfall, and like there's all these references, and it's crazy. Like WoW is such a big world, and it's insane. Like what wasn't it like 3 years? Didn't it take like 3 years to make WoW? Essentially, like the first like 1.1 patch.
It took longer than that. So I joined in it was May of 2002,
Okay.
and I believe I was the 40th member of the team.
Yeah.
So it had been in production for some time before that. I would have to. I could reach out to Eric Dodds. He would know, or I know you're in touch with Kevin Jordan.
Yeah.
As to the exact date that it started. So originally there was a game called Nomad. I don't even know what that game was. Like nobody talked about it there. You just knew that the game came from Nomad. And then there was a big shakeup on the Warcraft 3 team, which was like big drama internally at Blizzard where War 3 like in its development had a lot of issues and a bunch of the leaders of the War 3 team left and they actually went on to found ArenaNet, which are the guys who made like guild wars and stuff. So
Oh, that's crazy. I did not know that.
yes. What is his name? Mike O'Brien. I didn't know him. He left before my time.
Mhm.
And to this day, like the way you compress files on Blizzard games is called a MoPack, which is named after him. And then he left and went and founded ArenaNet and Guild Wars. So there was all this like drama and strife that led into, and it was Alan Adham,
Mhm.
who he was playing a lot of Dark Age of Camelot. He was good
Nice.
friends with Rob Pardo, who was playing tons of EverQuest. And Alan sort of saw the vision and the magic of EverQuest. And from my understanding is he's the one that pivoted the Nomad team onto making, instead we're going to make World of Warcraft like during that whole time period. So I don't know the exact dates that all of that rolled out under, because I kind of joined midstream. I was May of 2002. The game sort of barely existed when I joined. For example, if a designer placed an NPC in the world, like we would spawn like Farmer Saldine in Westfall,
Mhm.
you had to wait for a whole build or else the server would crash because there was a new NPC and the game just like didn't know how to deal with it. So like it was really early on. They had sort of like the barely some tech to make a quest. There was kind of some creatures, but Pat Nagel and I started at the same time, and we were really like that first content. Like we were going to put content to the game, because
Uh-huh.
before that it was all Eric Dodds and Kevin Jordan kind of designing the systems and working with the engineers. And there were some really talented world builders also. Like almost all of Eastern Kingdoms, like my first day at Blizzard, you could run from Eastern Plaguelands all the way down to Stranglethorn, and it was all like roughed out, but it wasn't finished. So you had these little pockets where like it mostly just looked like this gray checkerboard, and then suddenly you come in this like beautiful, like it looked like Arathi Highlands, but almost like, like a 20-meter radius only. And they're like, well, someday the rest of the zone will look like this. But it was really cool. It
That's
was super
crazy.
awesome.
Man,
Yeah.
that dude, that is so cool thing about. I mean, I've always heard stories, and I had a chance to talk to John Statz a few years ago, actually, about a lot of the level and world design stuff. But it's so interesting to hear. It's like you joined in 2002, and even in 2002, it's like they know what the world is going to look like. They knew what everything was already like. The blueprint is already there. Maybe it's more predictable, or you have like a pathway laid out a little bit more because of all the lore and the story from Warcraft 1, 2, 3 leading up to it. So you kind of know about some of the zones, you know about like, you might know about Ashenvale or like Hellfire, and you might know about these different things already. So maybe it makes it easier to place. But like for it to be kind of, at least mostly, it sounds like it was like almost completely like mapped out like 2-3 years in advance. At least.
It was. I mean, working with Metzen always had a strong vision for what the world. He really had his head wrapped around Warcraft,
Mhm.
and then you add to that Warcraft 3 was in heavy development. And I've said this before. This is like a controversial statement to throw out there, but I think Warcraft 3 might be the greatest Blizzard game ever made. Like it's the
Okay.
most perfect sort of statement of a Blizzard game that's ever out there. And the WoW team, which was Team 2 at the time, because Team 1 was the RTS team, the WoW team were the redheaded stepchildren of
Uh-huh.
Blizzard. And we were looking in awe at Warcraft 3. It wasn't like, oh God, we have to work in this Warcraft universe. We were trying to capture every little detail that happened in War 3. Like, that super famous cinematic where Arthas kills his dad and the crown falls to the ground
Yes.
and it does that crescent of blood on
Yeah.
the floor in Lordaeron.
Mhm.
Like, that is there in World of Warcraft,
Yep.
because we're like, we get to make a game almost like our big brothers on Team 1, the guys, our idols. Metzen was like the creative director on both those things. And so he would come over, like he'd spend time helping out Warcraft 3, but he was also guiding us. So there was a lot of vision. And original WoW, like you might have heard this before, and I've shown maps and other people have shown stuff like this on the internet. Original WoW was supposed to have Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor, Northrend, Outland, Emerald Dream, Dragon Isles, all of these were in the original plan, and then you just kind of start scoping back, like
Yeah.
pulling the ideas back as reality comes crashing down on you.
Right, right. There was like this screenshot of like an old forum post that was like allegedly deleted. It was like, oh, the GM posted this on the old WoW forums and it got deleted. And I think it was like a fake screenshot or whatever. But it showed like it was like the WoW, like the leaked WoW expansion set list. And it was like pretty accurate to what was. Have you heard about this?
I have. The thing was, it's very predictable, the
Yeah,
WoW
yeah.
expansions. Of like, so it's not too hard, like especially after we ship vanilla WoW, to go, if I was going to make a WoW expansion, which should be next. And I still remember the day we were deciding between Northrend and Outland, like which should come first. And
Oh,
we knew at
really?
that point we were going to make both. It was just which should come first at that point. So
Yeah, man, that's so interesting. My WoW experience and like comes from the same exact era when you were on the WoW team. So I'm vanilla, Burning Crusade, and a little bit of Wrath. But like the lore and everything, and going back to what you were talking about with like trying to live up to Warcraft 3, I didn't play Warcraft 3 until like years later. So for me, whenever I went back and I played Warcraft 3 and got to see like all the stuff with Illidan and Kael'thas and Lady Vosh and you kill Jaden, you see all these different characters come in, you see the stuff with Arthas and how he kills Menethil and that scene, that cinematic that you're talking about. I remember going back and seeing it in Undercity or like in the Lordaeron throne room and thinking that was the coolest thing in the world, and hearing the music, because I think you
yeah.
can hear the whispers in the music if you turn your audio up, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Yeah, it just kind of constantly like having this whole timeline and everything from this other game that turned into, I mean, the most popular MMO of all time. It's crazy.
It wouldn't have existed without, like, that was the big lesson from Titan. When we started Titan, we tried to make this like brand new IP from scratch and get people like really, really excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardest thing is, you think back to like, I mean, everybody knows what a success WoW has become, and it's very easy in hindsight, 20 plus years later, to look back on the success of WoW. But what really built the success of WoW was the early Blizzard, which I was not a part of at all, and the work that they did on Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, the epic Warcraft 2 expansion, and then Warcraft 3, like that set the stage for WoW to even happen.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, like guys like Metzen and Sammy, they were just coming into their own of like, this thing is a part, like it's an expression that has to be put out there. I was just lucky to catch it midstream like I did. Like literally entry level game designer, first job ever is joining the WoW team in 2002. Just
That's
like,
insane.
Hey, random guy, why don't you make quests for this game? We don't know what a quest is for this game, but you and Pat Nagel figure it out. And, Pat had been tech support up until the day he and I started as quest designers, and like, go ahead and figure out this game. What an amazing opportunity. But like, we didn't build that legacy. We were just lucky enough to be along for the ride of these amazing developers and part of the experience.
There's a bunch of different skills. I'm gonna use a WoW analogy that I talk about a lot because I think it applies to everything in life. I always say that there might be, it's not as simple as like PvE and PvP, right? Like, are you good at PvE? Are you good at PvP? Within those two like subcategories, there's all different types of skills. So if like you're a PvPer, like you can be good at dueling, or you can be good at arena, you can be good at battlegrounds, world PvP. Like there's all these different skills. So I think like laying the foundation, laying out the beginnings of what World of Warcraft was, is a different skill than being able to take that and carry it on as like the team got bigger and bigger, right? At least that's the way that I see it. So it's like, even though the foundation of Warcraft, like you weren't there for it, and you're like, oh yeah, I basically just like got you handed like a golden goose, right? Like you have to know what to do with it. You have to know how to care for it and not run it into the ground.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think it's cool to see. Like I think it's all like super important.
I've I often describe game developers like baseball pitchers. And if you don't follow baseball at all, this analogy is not going to make any sense. But in baseball, there's kind of starters and finishers. You know,
Hmm.
it's like there's these pitchers that you want like at the very beginning of the game, and then there's these pitchers you bring in to like close out a game. And I think game developers are like that.
Hmm.
And oddly, like the majority of game developers professionally are brought in to finish games or keep existing games going. Very few game developers actually make games completely from scratch, from the blank page.
Hmm.
I'm now lucky enough in my career, I've gotten to kind of play all those roles, but the more often than not, like if you're kind of just getting into it, or even if you're like moving around throughout the industry, you're kind of coming onto these big established juggernauts.
Hmm.
And both starting and sort of closing out a game are different skill sets and different mentalities to be in. And take when I decided to leave World of Warcraft and go work on Titan, part of it for me was that there's never a shortage of challenges with WoW game design.
Hmm.
Like the WoW game designers today in 2026, the job is just as hard and just as interesting as it was back in 2002, but your solution space is much more limited that you're
Hmm.
allowed to operate in because you have this existing community that is very vocal and passionate and always
Very.
going to let you. Yeah. And when you shift onto a new game, like, you know, when we were working on Legend of California, we've been working on it for 4 years with no public whatsoever. So we can make some pretty dramatic changes
Mhm.
and not have to worry about what's the community reaction going to be. I used to say this about WoW, and just to illustrate player psychology, that it's a psychology game designers call all change is bad. Doesn't matter what the change is. And the example I give is we could go into the mail in World of Warcraft and mail every single player on the server 100 gold. Just, hey, here's 100 gold. Hope it's a great day.
Yeah.
And the WoW forums would light up being pissed about it for
Yeah.
some reason. I don't even know what that reason is, but they're gonna be mad. Like, how dare you do that? You know?
It's a lot of why not
So
me's. That's what I call
yeah,
them. They're why not
yeah.
me's. Yeah. No.
So
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no. I'm just having fun. It's fun to talk about this stuff.
Yeah. Well, no, it's fun to hear about it because, you know, everybody kind of has their opinion on something, but nobody really knows. Like everybody sees the world from their own perspective. So whenever you see something or hear something from somebody else's perspective, it's just super interesting because especially for something that was such a big part of so many people's lives, right? You know, whether it's WoW or really any game that people spend so much time playing and has been around as long as it has. And you mentioned how you can make big sweeping changes to Legend of California because nobody knows about it, and it's like, hey, you know, our team, which is really all that matters at this stage, is the ones who's making this decision. It's kind of like funny analogy. But it's kind of like whenever my guild, I'm streaming, I do a raid, loot drops, and then I run my loot council the way that I do. I've always successfully ran guilds for many years across expansions. You know, people like the way that I handle things within the guild. But then if somebody outside of the guild doesn't like it, they get really upset about it, even though it has nothing to do with them or doesn't affect them. Most people are in a situation where people outside of their guild are not seeing how they run their guild or how they run their raids or anything like that. So it's kind of like the situation you guys were in. So it's like you basically turned on the camera after 4 or 5 years, and then this is what you have so far. But if people saw it from the beginning, they'd be like, wait, I really like that thing. And then they might get upset because that thing that they liked or that feature they really liked that you guys were like, oh, we can't really iterate on this. Like, this is like a cool idea, but it doesn't really play out. I feel like WoW was a lot like that too. I feel like a lot of the early decisions were like role play based. I always say they were always like based out of RP. Like, for example, Torrens not being able to have mounts, but then if you ran in
Yeah.
one direction for 3 seconds, which is the cast time of a mount, you would get mount speed. Like, that's a very fun RP idea. But then whenever it comes down to brass tacks, you're like, this doesn't really make sense for the game. Like, you can't do this and just run into a pack of mobs on accident because you held your W key down for 3.5 seconds instead. That was kind of like a long rant, but I totally understand what you're saying. It kind of relates to like what I mean, even as streamers, like what we see.
It,
Go ahead.
it's kind of a double-edged sword because on the one hand, developing in the vacuum is wonderful and it allows you space to be creative and space to make bold decisions and change things. Like for example, in Legend of California, we've changed the death system probably 6 times now. Complete overhaul of what happens when you die. It's a hard problem in any game. And obviously like changing it now, even after like this alpha test is extremely limited. There's like 200 people in it, but changing it now is going to be even more difficult because of the community reaction. Yet on the other hand, like as game developers, I always call like game developers, there's a pyramid. At the top is their artists, then in the middle they're entertainers, and then, you know, the sort of bottom of that is it is a business as well. We have to keep the lights on. But the entertainer part of game developers, we're the most introverted entertainers ever, but you've got to push us out on the stage. Like
Yeah.
we have to have, we're not making this game purely for ourselves. We're making this game for players, and players need to touch it and interact with it. So as much as it's been very nice to have, you know, 4 years and make all these decisions in a vacuum, we really need players to be experiencing it. We need to see what they're reacting to positively. We need to see what they're reacting to negatively. But with all that said, our decision space gets more and more limited based off of like the fact that players really wrestle with change. The other thing that like really great game developers have that it's hard for players to understand is a great game developer has to be able to represent different player types without actually playing the game that way. You have to know what the hardcore raider esports person's going to do. You have to know what the hardcore PvPer is going to do. You have to know what the casual role player is going to do. You have to know what the keyboard turner is going to do. Like these are all like very, very different player types. And it's not fair to just think about one of them at any one time, because any decision you make is it's gonna really have ripple effects onto everybody. I think about that a lot. Like when I was playing WoW and working on WoW, it's why you don't just read like just one subreddit or one forum or one community or just watch one YouTuber. Like you have to like expose yourself to all of it so you kind of get a much bigger idea, because communities are these little echo chambers, you know, they're just going to reinforce a point of view that is not always right or healthy for the game. Like they're all lobbying essentially.
Right.
They're lobbying for that moment in the patch notes where they're ah ha ha, we got the Ret Paladin nerfed. Finally, look, we did it. You know, it's like, I don't know, man. A sixth of all players are Ret Paladins. Like,
Yeah.
I'll give you a weird example of what I'm talking about. In early vanilla WoW, there was the Horde Alliance split, and in Korea, everybody played Alliance. Everybody wanted to be Alliance.
Okay.
And there was all sorts of like speculation about why. Like, oh, over in Korea they prefer the prettier looking races or whatever. I don't really know. Like, I think it was just all speculation. And we had people from our Korean office saying, "Hey, Jeff and Tom," this is when me and Tom Chilton were running the project. They're like, "Hey, Jeff and Tom, you guys need to let us turn off new character create on Alliance to force balance out the Horde." And my thought is, well, if all those players want to play Alliance and they paid money for the game, like who the hell are we to turn it off for them? Like that's like, I agree we have to solve the balance problem, but like stopping players from doing the thing that they love doing doesn't it's not my immediate instinct of
Yeah.
places to go for solutions, you know?
It's so funny that you say that because like I feel like that's something that to this day has been a struggle, and they've tried 100 different things. You know, whether it's like I guess in retail, like they don't even worry about it anymore. I mean, Horde and Alliance can even group together and play the game together, which to me is like I mean it goes against my entire like it just
Yeah.
goes my brain. But in Classic right now, they actually like I guess they finally gave up and they were like, you know what, we just have to do it. And it ended up it's a very good thing for like server health, but it is very frustrating. Like, because I have like multiple accounts too. Like, I just tried to create a character on like European servers. So I had to wait until typically like middle of the night at some point it opens up. But they're doing that now on the anniversary servers, where if you want to play like Horde Night Slayer, which is my server, you have to like log in at 3 a.m. and hope that character creation is open because they like dynamically turn it off because the population balance was such an issue in the 2019 Classic because the servers would
Yeah.
kind of snowball and separate, and they wanted to like how they're approaching anniversary is they're kind of going with the mega server idea, which is I guess somewhat similar to how they or how you guys wanted to do with Titan, where it's like put everybody in one world, but then with the layering and the different sharding and stuff like that, like different server tech. But I think it's crazy because things that are happening now from and this I end up having this kind of like thought every time I'm talking to any designer, any game dev, anybody. Like there are struggles in 2026 that everybody is having in developing a game that is kind of just like history repeats itself to the max. Like it's just constantly like the same thing years and years and years. And it's almost like you're chasing a meta. And it's like just what the player base, what the audience prefers at that time. And then things will just change. Things will just rotate back to what they were. Am I right about this, or am I simplifying it too much?
No, I mean it's very complex, and I think everybody has their own opinions of what's going to happen. I feel like as a game developer, the thing to not do is chase. I feel like chasing gets us into the loops that we get into of like, oh, another one of these, another one of those. Like if you think about it, there was World of Warcraft, for example. It was the king of the mountain of online games, like undeniably. And if you think about where did audiences move after and let's face it, most of the audience is still playing World of Warcraft, but like if you think of online juggernauts, it wasn't the 20 MMOs that tried to chase WoW. It was games like League of Legends and Minecraft. Because if you're going to play an MMO, WoW was just it. That's where the
Yeah.
community was. It doesn't even matter if WoW was like better. You could argue like, was WoW better than Star Wars, the Old Republic, or Warhammer Online? It didn't even matter because it was the incumbent that was going to hold that seat. And when big new audiences formed, that's where you had things like League of Legends and Minecraft. And if you think about like, okay, what are the games? The games that tried to chase League of Legends didn't unseat League of Legends. It started to be things like Overwatch and then PUBG and then Fortnite. Chasing isn't the right thing. You know, you're not going to beat Fortnite with a different I mean, it
Yeah.
was kind of sad because PUBG came out
Dude, I
and
love PUBG.
PUBG, oh, it was amazing.
Dude.
I like PUBG. I can't give enough praise for the game design of PUBG. Like it was so good. And for me, like I never got into Fortnite because that PUBG, like something about the world.
I
Like
know.
you're
I
wearing,
totally agree with you, by the way. I've talked about this so many times, but keep going. Sorry. I'm
well,
excited.
it's funny you're wearing your shirt, which I love, by the way, straight out of
Oh,
Stormwind.
yeah.
I have a shirt that said straight out of Polchinki, which is from PUBG. Because like, and my crew, we would always see these things like we try to collude in PUBG. Like our thing was we would all take off our pants and then like everybody join 3 2 1, click the queue because you could only join in groups of 4. And we try to get this like mega group of 8 together. And the way you'd identify us is because they'd all have their pants off.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but I love PUBG, but like kind of my point of where I'm going is like when you have these like established juggernaut games like World of Warcraft, I don't believe in the chase.
Mhm.
And I think that's where there's a lot of burn and churn in the industry where like everybody's like, really, we need another one. Like take the hero shooter. And
Oh
and
my
I'm not
gosh,
sure,
yeah.
I'm not trying to claim that Overwatch is the greatest game, and I know like everyone's gonna give me heat, and there's like nothing like I swear, if I had a grave, people would just desecrate it, pissed about goats from Overwatch, which just like, are you serious? Like, I wish I was so blessed in my life that 10 years later, the biggest problem is I'm still mad about goats. Like, I'm just like, you are blessed in your life if that's where you are today. Anyway, but like hero shooter, it's like I don't know if Overwatch was the greatest hero shooter ever made. Like I kind of feel like Team Fortress was, the granddaddy, and that's the one that I put on the pedestal and I worship. But like
Nice.
it is what it is, and I don't know if we need more hero shooters at this point.
Yeah.
Like Overwatch came out 7 years, or was announced 7 years, came out 9 years after Team Fortress. Like just take Arc Raiders, like great extraction shooter or whatever. Like, all right, how about everybody chill on extraction shooters for like a good 10 years until we're ready for one again, you know?
Yeah, no, that's so interesting because this whole conversation kind of goes back to. I mean, I'm sure you remember probably very vividly the WoW killer days, where every MMO that oh, is this the WoW killer? Is this going to be the next WoW killer? It was like Age of Conan, Rift,
Yep.
like all these different games that came out, and I literally remember saying this in middle school. I remember talking to people. No, I was in high school at the time because it was Burning Crusade. But I remember talking to people and being like, I just don't think that you can beat WoW by making a WoW clone. And I feel like to this day, you're with the hero shooters, whatever it is, people just kind of try and like iterate on something that's already out there. And once people have like learned a certain meta, they've gotten used to playing a certain game. It's actually kind of, I think from the perspective of a game developer, it can be kind of like demoralizing, especially with like if you're making PvP games. It can be really hard right now because people get so used to playing one game, not just one type, but one specific game. And as the player base gets older, because gamers are getting older, right? I mean, because it's not like it was, there were very few people that were like 40, 50, 60 playing video games 30 years ago. But now there's a ton of people like playing video games forever. And whenever that happens, it's like, yeah, when you're 40 years old, when you're 50 years old, you have a life, probably, maybe. and
Hey, speak for yourself. Yeah.
oh no, don't worry.
Like,
I am not
point
going to speak for
taken.
myself.
Yeah.
But you have these other responsibilities. And when you have all these responsibilities, for most people, they don't have time to go and pick up like let's say you play League of Legends. How are you going to go and play Dota? You just don't have time to learn all the new champions, learn the new meta. Let's say you play PUBG, going from PUBG to Fortnite. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's even harder going from something like a Fortnite to PUBG. Because I do have this theory about all games that like anytime there's like a bunch of games that come out at the same time, and using Fortnite and PUBG as an example, League and Dota as an example, like PUBG is still popular in its own kind of category, especially with like mobile and with Eastern audience. But Fortnite won. Like if it's like if it's a contest, if it's a competition, Fortnite won between Fortnite and PUBG. League versus Dota. Dota still very popular, especially with its own audience. But if it's Dota versus League, League is the more popular one. And I think if a game is like smooth, if the movement is snappy, if it feels like comfortable playing it, it will appeal to more people. This is something that I think like WoW did incredibly well over a lot of MMOs. And I think it's like a Blizzard, like the old phrase Blizzard polish that people would always talk about. There was something there with that where like the animations were snappy, the movements, everything has this like punchiness to it that just feels really good. With Blizzard games, you kind of see that with Legend of California. Like it doesn't surprise me, obviously. If you're so used to having a certain standard of how a game feels, playing Legend of California, just running around and just, the way that my character moves, like turning left and right, forward, whenever I want to ADS, like just everything feels like really good in this game.
Well, thank you. Like that, the team, obviously, like it's not just a bunch of ex Blizzard developers. I
Hmm.
hate when people represent us that way because we have a lot of developers who didn't work at Blizzard,
Right.
and I'm equally proud of their contributions and what
Hmm.
they're bringing. That's something that Tim and I try to drive from the top. It's just, it doesn't matter if we're like small indie game or whatever, like as gamers, what annoys us, what triggers us, what, like, and it's very flattering of you to say that about the alpha. Like all we're seeing right now is the warts and the scars on this alpha. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to 10 a.m. tomorrow can't come fast enough. If I'm just being honest with you, I'm like, please put me out of my misery and then like give me another shot to come out with the next one, like our next test, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Gamer time is precious. Gamers have been burned by junk, like just straight up like not acceptable. I'm very forgiving when there's like an independent dev who makes a game by themselves
Hmm.
and there's a little bit of jankiness in it. And I like all I can think of is mad props to that guy. Like the fact that he did the art, the design, the engineering himself. But once a team gets to a certain size and we're professionals, it's like it's not acceptable to just shovel stuff out. Like gamer time is very precious, and we're not just competing with other games, we're competing with everything out in your life for your free time. So when it comes to like Legend of California, we want it to feel amazing. We want it to be like a really cool game world. And whether or not you're hanging out and just hanging around the ranch and customizing and doing that stuff, or you're really into shooting and you want to go like shoot stuff in the enemy strongholds, like it drives me crazy when there are FPS games that don't respect the FPS genre of what
Hmm.
it means to like put a gun in a player's hand and know what it needs to feel like when you ADS, know what it needs to feel like when you shoot, understand when you're going to do raycast versus projectile, understand input delay, understand networking. Like it has to feel amazing because there's too many other comparisons at gamers' disposal for it not to feel amazing. And there's too many other beautiful game worlds for gamers to hang out in that our game world has. Like there is a legacy that we have to move forward for this game. The bar for entry just keeps getting higher and higher, and I respect and love that. I'm not pissed about it. I think it should be that, like, people should demand that the game is high quality. It doesn't sort of who made it or what the budget was. That's not a gamer's problem. They shouldn't have to think about it.
Hmm.
It just needs to stand on its own merits.
Yeah.
So
No, you're
I,
100% right. If the game is good, if the game is fun, it fixes all the problems, it answers all the questions, it covers all the bases, and that's really where it starts. And sometimes people ask me like, I'll play a new game, and people are like, "Is this game good?" And I'm like, I don't know, actually, if it's good or not. And this happens literally every time I'm playing a new game. I'm like, I don't know if it's good, but if you want to ask me if I'm having fun, yes, right now I'm having fun. It's pretty much how it all
awesome.
starts. I think more people need to see the games that way. It's like that's where it starts. Starting point. Really, it's not just where it starts. It's also it kind of is where it ends. Because if you're having fun for a long period of time playing a game, then there's going to be more people that play the game. More people that play the game, whether it's like an MMO or well. Actually, hold on. I'm gonna walk this one back a little bit because I think that you only need a certain amount of players for a game to feel fun and alive and enjoyable. And that certain amount changes based on the type of game that you're playing. So you talked about like Rust servers having like 200 players. Have you guys thought about like how like what the number is going to be for Legend of California?
We don't know. This alpha test was really important for us to figure some things out. We were hoping our concurrency was much higher, our per server cap. When we started this playtest, we were above 60, and now we have the servers capped at 40.
Hmm.
We know how to fix that. We learned a bunch. I would like to see what a server feels like at 100. It doesn't feel empty at 40, but it doesn't feel as thriving as I would like. I
Okay.
would like to push it a little bit more. And that's what we're learning right now. Like a lot of the technical issues we ran into this weekend aren't fixable in like safely fixable
Hmm.
in quick patches. They've patched the server probably 10 times at this point, but there's like a reasonable, like, I don't know, we should be a little bit careful with how much we patch at this point. We're getting there. I'm going to need to go soon. I'm going to get in trouble if I don't feed the family for lunch. But
Yeah.
if you have any more questions or final questions, let me know. But
Yeah.
it's so fun. Hey, I love just chatting about games with you. It's really
Yeah, no,
awesome.
dude, I've been having a great time. Like it's just it for me. I just love talking about games. I mean, I'm a streamer. I play video games and do all this stuff. But what I wanted to do, I always wanted to get into game design and making video games. That's all I want to do growing up. Like that's what my goal was, is to make video games. And then I ended up doing like football and sports, and then now I'm streaming and I like do business stuff. So it's like kind of funny because like I've done like all these other things, but it's mostly because I realized I wasn't smart enough to know how to program. So, but
You don't need a program to do game design. Just so you know, like lots of game design is very technical.
mhm.
But you don't need to, like, I just say that for everybody who might be in chat, who might be interested in game. There are a lot of types of design that aren't super technical. So don't feel like you have to limit yourself. I don't program. So
Yeah, yeah. But you know what's interesting is that's kind of what I've learned is a lot of times the people, like, it's everybody has different roles, and usually like people who are in a game director role aren't really often the ones doing much of the programming, but it's more of like the big picture design stuff and more of the creative side of it as opposed to the technical side of it.
yeah, having some perspective, whether or not you're the technical one, understanding art and engineering, if you're a designer, is going to make you a better designer. Even if that's not your area of expertise. That's sort of any team-based thing. Understanding other people's roles, even when you're not the one doing it, is important.
Yeah. What's the best way for people to give feedback and to kind of like, let's say, I know this first playtest was like very, very small, but what is the best way for people to get kind of more involved and give feedback for Legend of California? And, or even what's the best way for people to get into the next playtest?
So for the next playtest, we're hoping to have more people, at least for beta. We might insert another playtest between this and beta,
Mhm.
just to get our technical house in order. That would be small again if we do that. Beta will probably try to let more people in. Best thing to do is wish list on Steam, because that's our only way of contacting people.
Oh, okay.
Hit us up on wishlist on Steam. We have a really thriving Discord. We'd love people to join the Discord, and you can give feedback there. And there's already like a ton of amazing suggestions in our feedback, which is really amazing. We're trying to get a subreddit going. We've been reaching out to the moderators. There's a Legend of California subreddit that's been starting. We're trying to support content creators. We suggest them we have a content creator like sign up form or whatever.
Mhm.
And in whatever ways we can kind of support, it's like me jumping on your stream is a great example. So there's lots of ways for people to give us feedback. That's it.
I really appreciate you coming on. I mean, this is super fun. Actually, if you're down, go eat whatever. I'm planning on playing Legend of California next few hours. If you want to, whenever you get back, I'm down to hop into the game. We could just play together, and you can carry me because I'm
Awesome.
a noob.
Awesome. Okay. Well, it sounds good. Let me get the family fed, and we'll see where I'd love to hang out again. I love
Yeah.
talking about the Legend of California. I love talking about the old WoW stuff too. So thank you so much. Like, this is
Yeah.
actually a big honor, and I really appreciate you including me on your stream.
Yeah, no, I mean, same here. I mean, I like, for me, like I said, like you're one of the big guys behind what is, I mean, my favorite MMO of all time, specifically Burning Crusade even, and just kind of knowing everything. And like I said, I watched the whole Lex Friedman interview, and I felt so validated by so many of the things that you said. I was like,
Awesome.
this guy, Jeff Kaplan, is a genius.
I don't know about that, but yeah. You take care, sir, and bye, chat. Thanks everyone for including me here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, cheers. We'll catch you later.
We'll see ya.
Okay, bye-bye.
Man, Jeff is so great, Chad.